gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Robert Sports Show. I'm your host, Robert. Alright, as the NCAA college football season winds down, we are at week 14. Next week is the conference championships. The week after is the annual Army versus Navy game. Then we go on to the bowl season and the college football playoff. Last week I went 19-5 on straight up picks, 15-9 against the spread, 15-9 on the over-under. Year to date brings me on win-loss 368 and 104, which is 78%. Against the spread 223 and 239, which is 48.2%. Over-under 238 and 224, which is 51.5%. Altogether, I'm at 59.4%. Hopefully the 63 games we have here in week 14 will improve those totals somewhat. We do have some interesting games. We do have some just kind of fill out the season type of games. These first two games are going to be tonight. Tuesday night, we have the Ohio Bobcats, who are 5-6, versus the Akron Zips, who are 0-11. Bobcats are favored by 27.5. I got them winning, covering, and under on the 51.5. Next, we have Western Michigan Broncos, 7-4, versus the Northern Illinois Huskies, who are 4-7. Broncos are favored by 7. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 56.5. Now, the next game is on Thursday. We have the Ole Miss Rebels, Thursday. There's a Thanksgiving game? Well, how about that? There is. Okay. I wrote down Thursday. It could be Wednesday. Anyway, we have the Ole Miss Rebels, 4-7, versus the 5-6 Mississippi State Bulldogs. Mississippi State is favored by 3 at home. I got them winning, covering, and under on the 59.5. The next bank of games are going to be on Friday. We have the Toledo Rockets, who are 6-5, versus the Central Michigan Chippewas, who are 7-4. Chippewas are favored by 9.5. I got them winning, covering, and under on the 65. Next, we have the Texas Tech Red Raiders, 4-7, versus the Texas Longhorns, who are 6-5. Longhorns are favored by 9. I got them winning, covering, and under on the 67.5. Next up, we have this game will be for the ACC Coastal Division. Currently, we have two 8-3 teams. We have the Virginia Tech Hokies versus the Virginia Cavaliers. Both teams are 8-3. The winner of this obviously goes on to the ACC title game versus Clemson. So we have Virginia Tech Hokies favored by 2.5 at home. Virginia Tech is favored by 2.5 on the road. I'm giving the 2.5 to Virginia Cavaliers. I got the home team winning, covering, and under on the 46.5. Next up, we have the Kent State Golden Flashes, who are 5-6, versus the Eastern Michigan Eagles, who are 6-5. Eagles are favored by 5.5. I do have them winning, covering, and under on the 65.5. Next up, Bowling Green Falcons, who are 3-8, versus the Buffalo Bulls, who are 6-5. Buffalo is favored by 29 at home. I got the Buffalo Bulls winning. I got the Falcons covering the 29 and over on the 52.5. Next up, the Miami, Ohio Redhawks, 7-4, versus the Ball State Cardinals, who are 4-7. Ball State is favored by 2.5. I'm giving the 2.5 to the Redhawks. I got the Redhawks going on the road and winning, covering the 2.5 and over on the 54.5. Next up, we have the 17th ranked Iowa Hawkeyes, who are 8-3, versus the 5-6 Nebraska Cornhuskers. Hawkeyes are favored by 6 on the road. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 47.5. Next up, we have the Missouri Tigers, who are 5-6, versus the Arkansas Razorbacks, who are 2-9. Missouri favored by 11.5 on the road. I got Missouri winning. They don't win much on the road. Matter of fact, you know what? Fuck it, I'm changing it. I'm giving it 11.5 to Arkansas. I got Arkansas winning, Missouri covering, under on the 54.5, because Missouri doesn't win on the road. So Arkansas wins, giving them the 11.5. Mizzou covers the 11.5, and then under on the 54.5. Next up, we have the battle for the American Conference. We have the 19th ranked Cincinnati Bearcats, who are 10-1, versus the 18th ranked Memphis Tigers, who are 10-1. This could be a preview of the conference championship game. Right now, Cincinnati's already clinched the East Division. Memphis, with a win here, they would be in. Otherwise, they have SMU right behind them at 9-2, and they had Navy right behind them at 8-2. Memphis is favored by 11.5 at home. I'm picking the Tigers to win. So we'll have a rematch next week for the American title game. And then I have Cincinnati covering 11.5. So Memphis winning, Cincy covering 11.5, over on the 57.5. Next up, we have the 28th ranked Boise State Broncos, who are 10-1, versus the Colorado State Rams, who are 4-7. Broncos are favored by 12.5. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 57.5. Next up, we have the Washington State Cougars at 6-5 versus the Washington State Huskies, who are also 6-5. Huskies are favored by 6.5. I got them winning, covering, and under on the 63.5. Next up, we have the Western Michigan Mountaineers, 4-7, versus the 5-6 TCU Horned Frogs. TCU is favored by 12.5. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 44.5. Next up, we have Arkansas State Red Wolves, 7-4, versus the South Alabama Jaguars, 1-10. Red Wolves are favored by 13. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 53.5. Next up, we have the 24th ranked Appalachian State Mountaineers, 10-1, versus the 5-6 Troy Trojans. Mountaineers favored by 13.5. I got them winning, covering, and under on the 64.5. We have the South Florida Bulls, 4-7, versus the 8-3 UCF Knights. The Knights are favored by 25.5. I got the Knights winning, the Bulls covering at 25.5, and I'm taking under on the 62.5. And that wraps up the games for Friday. Now we start the games for Saturday. The first of the Saturday games, we have the 4th ranked Georgia Bulldogs, who are 10-1, versus the 3-8 Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Bulldogs are favored by 28 on the road. They are the best team in Georgia. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 46.5. Next up, we have the 3-8 Tulsa Golden Hurricanes versus the 4-7 East Carolina Pirates, excuse me. The Hurricanes are favored by 5.5. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 61. Next up, we have the Louisville Cardinals, 7-4, versus the Kentucky Wildcats, who are 6-5. Kentucky favored by 3. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 54. Next up, we have the Clemson Tigers, 3rd ranked Clemson Tigers, 11-0. These rankings are based on the AP poll, not the playoff ranking, which comes out tonight. Versus the South Carolina Gamecocks, who are 4-7. The Tigers have won 26 straight games. Since 2015, they are 66-4. They're 3rd ranked. South Carolina Gamecocks, 4-7. But they actually beat the team that is 4th ranked, the Georgia Bulldogs. So the Bulldogs' only loss was to South Carolina. Can South Carolina, once again a 27-point dog, can they beat another top-ranked team? I'm not saying they're going to do it. I'm not going to. I go on limbs on my picks, but I'm not going that far out. Would I be overly shocked? I mean, they beat Georgia 20-17 in double overtime. And Georgia's favored at 28 right now against Georgia Tech. So, I got the Tigers winning. I got the Gamecocks covering the 27 points, taking under on the 51.5. I think this game is going to be a lot like the South Carolina-Georgia game. It would not shock me if South Carolina did an upset here. I'm not calling it. I'm just saying, throwing it out there, what if? It wouldn't shock me if Clemson blew it up by 30. But this could be the upset. If South Carolina could pull off 2 top 5 upsets this year, that would be nuts and fucking crazy. But I'm picking Clemson to win. I got South Carolina covering the 27, under on the 51.5. Next up, we have the 2-9 Northwestern Wildcats versus the 6-5 Illinois Fighting Illini. Illinois favored by 10.5. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 44. Next up, we have the Indiana Hoosiers 7-4 versus the 4-7 Purdue Boilermakers. Hoosiers favored by a touchdown on the road, get them winning, covering, and under on the 56. Next up, we have the Ohio State Buckeyes 11-0, ranked number 2, versus the 13th ranked Michigan Wolverines, who are 9-2. Buckeyes are favored by 8.5. So if Michigan wants a top-tier win, Jim Harbaugh, this is the game to do it. What happens to the freaking playoff committee if Michigan upsets Ohio State? Just throw another monkey wrench in it all. So, Ohio State's favored by 8.5. I don't see the upset. Ohio State winning, covering 8.5 and over on the 52. Next up, we have the Texas State Bobcats, who are 3-8 versus Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, 4-7. Coastal Carolina favored by a touchdown. I'm giving the touchdown to Texas State. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 53. Next up, we have the Florida International Panthers, who are 6-5 versus the 7-4 Marshall Thunder and Herd. Thunder and Herd favored by 7.5. I got them winning, covering, and under on the 49.5. Next up, we have the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, who are 8-3 versus the 4-7 Syracuse Orange. Wake Forest favored by 4.5. I got them winning, covering, and under on the 64.5. Next up, Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders 4-7 versus the 7-4 Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. The Hilltoppers are favored by 8.5 at home. I got them winning, covering, and under on the 15.5. Next up, we have Wyoming Cowboys 7-4 versus the Air Force Falcons 9-2. Falcons are favored by 10.5 at home. I'm giving the 10.5 to Wyoming. I got them winning. I got Air Force covering and over on the 43. So I'm giving the 10.5 points that are on the board to Wyoming. I got the Wyoming Cowboys winning the game. I got the Air Force Falcons covering at 10.5 and taking over on the 43. Next up, we got the Charlotte 49ers 6-5 versus the Old Dominion Monarchs 1-10. 49ers are favored by 9.5. I get them winning, covering, and over on the 50. Next up, we have the New Mexico State Aggies 2-9 versus the 6-5 Liberty Flames. Liberty favored by 2 touchdowns at home. I got them winning, covering, and under on the 65.5. Next up, UNLV Rebels 3-8 versus Nevada Wolfpack 7-4. Nevada favored by 7.5. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 53.5. Next up, the Boston College Eagles 5-6 versus the Pittsburgh Panthers 7-4. Pittsburgh is favored by 9.5. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 52. Next up, the Southern Mississippi Golden Eagles 7-4 versus the Florida FAU Florida Atlantic Owls 8-3. FAU is favored by 8.5. I got them winning. I got the Eagles covering and over on the 54.5. 6-5 Miami Hurricanes going into North Carolina versus the Duke Blue Devils, who are 4-7. Hurricanes. There's a hurricane coming. They're going to win. They're going to cover the 8.5 and going to be under on the 47.5. Next up, the number 5 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide 10-1 versus the Auburn Tigers 8-3. The 84th annual Iron Bowl. Now, Alabama has been 46-31-1 in the Iron Bowl history. Nick Saban era, they're 8-4. Now, the Crimson Tide are favored by 3.5. I know there's no 2-ing. I still want them to make the playoffs. I still have them winning here, covering, and over on the 50. To be perfectly honest with you, in my opinion, as long as they win out, which obviously this game, there's a good shot they'll be the number 4 team for the playoffs, because they are Alabama. They lose here, they have no shot. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 50. Next up, we have the 2-9 Connecticut Huskies versus the 7-4 Temple Owls. Temple's favored by 28. I got them winning, covering, under on the 49.5. We have the 14th ranked Baylor Bears 10-1 versus the Kansas Jayhawks, who are 3-8. The Bears are favored by 2 touchdowns on the road. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 52.5. The Rutgers Scarlet Knights 2-9 take on the 8th ranked Penn State Nittany Lions, here 9-2. Penn State is favored by 40 at home. That number scares the living shit out of me if I want to say this right. Penn State wins, covers, and over on the 49. So I got them winning by 40. Next up, we have the University of Texas San Antonio Roadrunners, 4-7 versus Louisiana Tech Bulldogs 8-3. Bulldogs favored by 20.5 on the road. I got them winning, covering, and under on the 55. Next up, the 3-8 Maryland Terrapins versus the Michigan State Spartans, who are 5-6. Spartans are favored by 22. I got the Terrapins covering the 22. Spartans winning and over on the 49. Nice little Big Ten West 1 versus 2. We have the 12th ranked Wisconsin Badgers 9-2 versus the 10th ranked Minnesota Golden Gophers who are 10-1. The Wisconsin's won 3 straight while they're 2-2 on the road. Wisconsin's favored on the road by 2.5. I'm giving to the home team. I got them giving the 2.5 to Minnesota. I got them winning, covering it under on the 47.5. Next up, we have the 3-8 Virginia. The 3-8 Vanderbilt Commodores versus the Tennessee Volunteers, who are 6-5. Tennessee is favored by 22. I got Vandy covering at 22. Tennessee winning and over on the 40.5. Tulane Golden Wave 6-5 versus 25th ranked SMU Mustangs, who are 9-2. Mustangs favored by 3.5. I got them winning, covering and under on the 71.5. 16th ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish 9-2 versus the 4-7 Stanford Cardinal. Notre Dame favored by 16.5. I got them winning, covering and over on the 51.5. Utah State Aggies 6-5 versus the New Mexico Lobos 2-9. Aggies favored by 11.5. I got them winning, covering and under on the 61. Oregon State Beavers 5-6 versus the 6th ranked Oregon Ducks, who are 9-2. Ducks are favored by 19. I got them winning, covering and over on the 68. UAB Blazers 8-3 versus North Texas Mean Green 4-7. UAB favored by 1 on the road. I got them winning, covering and over on the 50.5. Next up, we have the Georgia State Panthers 7-4 versus the Georgia Southern Eagles 6-5. The Eagles are favored by 7.5. I'm giving the 7.5 to the Panthers. I got them winning, covering and under on the 57.5. Next up, we have the Texas A&M Aggies, who are 7-4 versus the number 1 ranked team in the country, LSU Tigers, who are 11-0. Tigers are favored by 17. I got them winning, covering over on the 62.5. Next up, we have the Navy Midshipmen 8-2 versus the 4-7 Houston Cougars. Navy favored by 8.5. I got them winning, covering and over on the 59.5. 22nd ranked Iowa State Cyclone 7-4 versus the 7-4 Kansas State Jayhawks. Iowa's favored by 4.5. I'm giving the 4.5 to K-State, taking the home team here, winning, covering over on the 47. North Carolina Tar Heels 5-6 versus the NC State Wolfpack 4-7. Tar Heels favored by 8. I got them winning. I got the what am I doing here? Oh, okay. Tar Heels are favored by 8. I'm giving the 8 to the Wolfpack. I got the Wolfpack winning, covering and over on the 54.5. University of Louisiana Monroe Warhawks 5-6 versus the Louisiana Raging Cajuns, who are 9-2. Cajuns are favored by 21. I got them winning, covering and under on the 67.5. The Battle of Florida, we have the Florida State Seminoles 6-5 versus the 11th ranked Florida Gators 9-2. Gators, Gator Nation. Gators are favored by 17. I got them winning, covering and over on the 53.5. Colorado Buffaloes 5-6 versus the 7th ranked Utah Utes for 10-1. Utah is favored by 28.5. I got them winning. I got the Buffaloes covering 28.5. Over on the 49. The 9th ranked Oklahoma Sooners 10-1 versus the 21st ranked Oklahoma State Cowboys 8-3. The Bedlam Series, the 114th meeting. Oklahoma has won 88. They're 88-18-7. The Sooners are favored by 13.5. I got them winning, covering and over on the 69.5. BYU Cougars 7-4 versus San Diego State Aztecs 8-3. BYU is favored by 3 on the road. I'm giving the 3 to the home team. I got the Aztecs winning, covering and over on the 40.5. Arizona Wildcats 4-7 versus the Arizona State Sun Devils 6-5. Sun Devils favored by 13.5. I got them winning, covering and under on the 59.5. California Golden Bears 6-5 versus the 4-7 UCLA Bruins. Bruins are favored by 2.5. The Bruins are favored by 2.5. I'm giving the 2.5 to California. I got the Bears winning, covering and over on the 51.5. Fresno State Bulldogs 4-7 versus the San Jose State Spartans 4-7. The Bulldogs are favored by 2.5. I'm giving the 2.5 to the home team. We got the Spartans winning, covering the 2.5, and under in the 65.5. Last but not least, we have the Army West Point Black Knights 5-6 versus the 8-4 Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. Hawaii is favored by 3 at home. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 56.5. Lots of games there for Week 14, all 63 of them. So that's going to be NCAA week number 14. As always, thanks for watching the Rubber Sports Show. Make sure you check out week 13 of the NFL. And happy Thanksgiving to y'all. God damn, I can't talk today. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone watching, to your families as well. Hopefully you get some great time with the family when hanging out with the Pulse family. This holiday season, just like I do every year. So, a wonderful, crazy family. As always, thanks for watching the Rubber Sports Show. And then just have a great day. Have a spiffy day. Rubber Sports Show, your YouTube leader, sports channel content.